The Age of Strife was a dark and tumultuous period in mankind's history, lasting nearly 5 millennia from the 25th to the 30th millennium. During this time, Terra was engulfed in anarchy, which was marked by devastating wars and rampant technological regression. However, a beacon of hope emerged from the ashes in the form of the Emperor of Mankind. The Emperor, a being of extraordinary psychic power and unmatched wisdom, had remained hidden throughout much of human history. However, seeing his species on the brink of destruction, he revealed himself towards the end of the Age of Strife. The Emperor began his quest to reunite humanity by subjugating the warlords and techno-barbarian tribes that ruled Terra. Thus, for the first time in thousands of years, the war-torn planet was brought under a single unified government. Yet the Emperor's vision extended far beyond Terra. With Terra unified, he began to set his sights on the stars. The Emperor initiated the Great Crusade, a series of campaigns intended to bring all of human settled space under the control of a unified stellar empire, an entity he termed the Imperium of Man. In this endeavor, he created 20 superhuman individuals known as the Primarchs, as well as their legions of genetically engineered warriors, the Adeptus Astartes, or Space Marines, who would serve as his generals and shock troops in the wars to come. Thus began the Emperor's Great Crusade, a grand and audacious venture of interstellar conquest that would span more than 2 centuries. As the Imperial expeditionary fleets ventured forth into the galaxy, they encountered various xenos species, the most dangerous of which was a brutal and warlike species known as the Orks. The greenskins, as they were often called due to their distinct green skin, proved to be a formidable menace. The Orks were an incredibly prolific and aggressive species that thrived in the harsh realities of the galaxy. They were belligerent, hardy, and in many ways the antithesis of the Emperor's vision for a unified, peaceful galaxy. They posed a significant challenge to the advance of the Great Crusade, proving to be a persistent and lethal enemy that the nascent Imperium had to overcome. As the Great Crusade expanded further into the galaxy, Imperial expeditionary fleets ventured deeper into the territories controlled by the Orks. These expansion efforts eventually led them to the Talon Reach, an area of space home to an expansive Ork Empire, the heart of which was the scrap world of Gorro. Gorro was unlike any other world the Imperium had encountered, dominated by the Ork tech caste known as the Mech Boys. The planet was fashioned into a vast workshop and factory complex where countless Orks were dedicated to creating, modifying and improving their war machines. The Mech Boys of Gorro displayed a particular fascination with a specific form of plasma technology, which the Imperium had not encountered before, nor would they ever encounter again. It was a testament to the Orks' paradoxical combination of primitive brutality and advanced technological prowess that this unorthodox plasma technology demonstrated destructive yields of a terrifying magnitude, often capable of decimating entire Imperial units with a single blast. It was clear that this potent form of weaponry posed a serious threat to the Great Crusade's efforts to subjugate the Talon Reach. The threat was so severe that the Emperor himself decreed that Gorro must be destroyed, leading to the monumental assault on the scrap world, known as the Gorro Hollowing. The fleet, assembled for the assault on Gorro, was a formidable force. Over 1,000 warships, representing the might and power of the Imperium, emerged from the warp above Gorro. On board these ships were tens of thousands of assault craft, poised to execute the Emperor's directive. At the forefront of this enormous armada was Horus and his lunar wolves. They had answered the Emperor's call, and the vengeful spirit would lead the assault. The task ahead of them was daunting. Gorro, with its dense layers of scrap metal and powerful plasma defenses, was highly resistant to traditional methods of orbital bombardment. This challenge led to the strategic decision to hollow out Gorro from within, a risky and daring plan that required deploying Space Marines directly into the heart of enemy territory. The Orks pressed the Imperial fleet hard, their mechboy-inspired flotilla proving to be far more accurate than any Ork ships the Imperium had encountered thus far. Imperial losses were heavy, and the vengeful spirit received heavy damage. The Imperials were losing to the Orks of Gorro. Sejanus and the rest of the Mournival expressed their concerns to Horus, who grinned as though savouring the moment. As Sejanus bemoaned the lack of enough firepower to smash through the Ork lines, a fleet translated from the warp. Amber light spilled out of the void as the Imperator Somnium and its host of warships beset the Ork flotilla. The Orks turned to face this new threat, and Horus, as was always the plan, gave the order for the Lunar Wolves fleet to reform and attack. The Orks stood little chance. In short order, the battle was over. The Emperor and 300 of his custodes joined Horus on the vengeful spirit and prepared to invade Gorro. The Emperor and Horus would take the vanguard position in the assault. Using teleportation technology, they were deployed beneath the planet's surface into the scrap layers. They were accompanied by a guard composed of Justerin Terminators from the Lunar Wolves' First Company and the golden-clad warriors accompanying the Emperor, forming a formidable force intended to penetrate Gorro's defenses. As the Space Marines advanced into the bowels of Gorro, they were met with overwhelming Ork resistance. These Orks were no ordinary greenskins, but hulking beasts augmented with scavenged bionics, some of which stood taller than the Astartes dreadnoughts. Their scavenged weaponry was potent enough to burn through Astartes' power armor easily, demonstrating the scale of the challenge that the Imperial forces had to overcome. Due to the damage taken during the space battle, the gravitational field holding Gorro together began to fail. In the midst of a warband of Orks, the Emperor himself was separated from his guards as the planetoid shifted. Despite being alone, he continued to cut down hundreds of Orks. Horus did not hesitate. He plunged into the vast hole in search of his father, his Primarch physiology saving his life as their guardians died around him. The Emperor fought his way to a vast spherical chamber, the heart of Gorro. Strange gravitic forces assaulted his senses. There was no up, no down. At its center lay a vast ball of colossal plasma energy, at least 1,000 meters across. As Horus approached the chamber, he could make out the Emperor embroiled in a battle he could not win. The Emperor fought a howling mob of Primarch-sized Orks. Their leader was a mechanized warlord, a giant of an Ork, clad in a tusked iron helmet and 6 weaponized limbs bolted onto his armor. Already wounded from his fall through the scrap levels of Gorro and battling mega-Orks, the Emperor was pushed back by the warlord. Rotor cannons and lightning claws ripped the Emperor's armor to shreds, at last creating an opening. The Ork grabbed him with a gigantic green fist and began to crush the very life out of him. However, help was not far off. Horus, ever the loyal and dutiful son, stormed through the battlefield, cutting off the Ork leader's arms with a single blow and freeing the Emperor. With their leader rescued, the Imperial forces rallied, and father and son led their troops deeper into Gorro. Having battled their way deep into the scrap world of Gorro, the Emperor and Horus, alongside their loyal Imperial forces, reached the center of the planet. Their primary target was the self-sustaining plasmasphere, the power source of much of the world's scavenged Ork technology. The plasmasphere was an exemplar of the mechboy's unconventional yet potent technological prowess. Apart from powering Gorro's numerous devices, it also contained a warp-fold envelope, a complex construct that could potentially allow Gorro to implode into the warp. Despite the overwhelming strength of the Ork resistance and the risks associated with tampering with such potent technology, the Emperor managed to collapse the plasmasphere. The consequences of this action were immediate and drastic. Without its power source, Gorro began to collapse in on itself. The spectacle of the once mighty Ork Empire crumbling into nothing more than a hollow husk marked the death knell for the Orks' reign over Gorro. Back aboard the vengeful Spirit, Horus approached the Emperor and opined that the Orks would never recover from such a crushing defeat. The Emperor gently shook his head, explaining that the Orks were a cancer to be eradicated from the galaxy, that harder battles still lay ahead of them against the greenskins. A light glowed gently on the hololith between them. And is this it? Asked Horus. Yes, said the Emperor, this is Ulanor.